All right, get ready for this deep dive. We're tackling Indian aviation
Specifically, SpiceJet.
with, company filings and reports, a press release, even some possible podcast questions.
It's a lot.
Yeah, like, are they really recovering or is it just a blip?
A temporary high, you mean? A lot of questions.
Right. So let's go through all this and try to figure out what's next for SpiceJet.
Okay, sounds good.
And the first thing that really jumps out is how much their finances have changed.
Oh, yeah, a huge e-turnaround. A
Right.
profit of 26 crore rupees.
This quarter, right.
Yeah,
Good.
compared to a 300 crore rupee loss same time last year.
Wow.
Complete opposite. And they've also got a positive net worth now for the first time in a decade.
Okay, so net worth positive sounds good, but like, what does that actually mean for a company?
Yeah.
Especially one that's been struggling.
Think of it like you've had all this debt for years, right? And you're barely making ends meet.
Okay, I can relate to that.
Right. Then suddenly you get this windfall, pay it all off, and even have money left over.
Oh, nice.
That's SpiceJet. They're not in survival mode. They can actually build on something now.
So it's like they've finally paid off those old debts and can, actually focus on growing.
Exactly. And that's where these key performance metrics come in, like ASKM, RASK, and passenger load factor. Those are what tell us if an airline is running well.
All right, let's break those down a bit because I tried explaining ASKM to a friend once and it did not go well.
I can imagine.
Is there like a simple way to think about this, for people who aren't aviation economists?
Yeah, think of it like your car's mileage. ASKM, that's available seat kilometers, basically measures how far all your seats could fly total.
So like their total flying potential.
Yeah, I like that. And then RSK tells you how much money you make from each of those potential kilometers.
So like, are they filling seats at a price that makes sense?
Exactly. Revenue per available seat kilometer. And then passenger load factor, that one's simple. How full are your planes?
I see. And SpiceJet's was 87%.
Huh.
A full plane is good, right? But is 87% actually good?
Oh, yeah, definitely above average. Think of it this way. The Indian aviation market is this big pie, right?
Mm-hmm.
SpiceJet's getting a much bigger slice than a lot of their competitors. It means they're doing something right to attract passengers and get those seats filled.
So they've got the planes, they're filling them, and they're making money doing it. Sounds good.
So far, so good.
But they also made this big move with their qualified institutional placement, the QIP. Raised a lot of money, 3,000 crore rupees. What's the significance of that?
It's more than just raising money. It shows that investors have confidence in them. Why would they put so much money into SpiceJet?
Yeah, good point.
They must see potential. They believe in this turnaround story.
So it's like investors are putting their money where their mouth is, and they use that money
Sure.
well, right?
Yeah.
Paid off debts, got more planes.
Absolutely. They even got major lessors like Air Castle and Carlisle Aviation to take a discount.
Oh, wow, that's smart.
Save them 467 crore rupees. Like, getting a better deal on your mortgage frees up cash for other things.
And some of that other things is getting those grounded planes back in the air. 10 more this quarter. Some of those Boeing 737 MAX planes.
They're working hard to unground those, yeah.
Which makes sense, right?
Oh, yeah, more people are flying in India, so it's all about planning for the future.
And speaking of that, they're also, they got those Hajj flight rights for next year, expanding their network.
Even special flights for the Mahakumbh.
Like, they're thinking ahead.
Definitely not sitting around.
But for all the good news, there's these concerns from the auditor in the reports.
Oh, right.
Amid all the positive stuff, this note of caution, they said, material uncertainties. Well, what does that even mean?
It's like, imagine you're building a house. The base is solid, the walls are up, but there's no roof yet. And there's a chance a storm could come and knock the whole thing down. Those material uncertainties, those are like the missing parts, the risks that could derail everything SpiceJet's done.
So it is a little worrying. They mentioned things like accumulated losses, liabilities exceeding assets. Now, I'm no expert, but that doesn't sound good.
It's like having this huge credit card bill and not enough savings to pay it off.
Oof.
On paper, they owe more than they own. It's from their past struggles, but it's definitely something they need to be careful about.
So even with all the good stuff SpiceJet's reporting, there's still some weak spots financially, like they're walking a tightrope.
Exactly. They've made progress, but it's not over yet. And that's what makes this so interesting, trying to figure out if they can keep moving forward or if they'll trip up.
It's a bit of a financial thriller. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's look closer at these concerns, starting with those liabilities exceeding assets. How do they even get into that mess? And more importantly, how do they get out of it?
Well, now that's where things get interesting.
So we're back and ready to keep unraveling this SpiceJet situation. We were talking about liabilities exceeding assets, that financial baggage from the past.
Like a Jenga tower, you keep pulling pieces out and hope it doesn't fall apart. Years of high operating costs, fuel prices going up and down, and those old debt problems all led to this.
And then you add those legal disputes, which are never cheap or easy. It's a lot for any company to deal with. So how does an airline like SpiceJet even, climb out of this hole?
There's no quick fix, that's for sure. They have to watch every penny, be super efficient, and also find ways to make more money.
It's like running a marathon while balancing a bunch of plates on your head.
Great analogy. And that's where ASKM, RASK, and passenger load factor become crucial. Keep those planes full, make money from each seat, and control costs.
So it's this balancing act, right? Managing what they have and also finding ways to grow. But it's not just what they do, right? The global economy, government policies, that can all mess things up.
Oh, absolutely. A strong global economy, more people travel, good for airlines. But a downturn, people stay home, less money coming in.
And government policies are unpredictable. Taxes, fees, regulations, subsidies, it all affects their profits.
It's like trying to get through a maze with walls that keep moving. SpiceJet has to be ready for those policy changes, adjust their strategy, be proactive, not reactive.
So they have this debt, tons of competition, and things keep changing. It's a lot to handle. But they are making some moves to try and grow, like that focus on connecting smaller cities.
Ah, yes, their part in the UDAN scheme. That's a government thing to connect those smaller cities and towns by air. Bold move, but it has challenges.
For those of us who don't know much about Indian aviation, can you explain why it's such a big deal?
Imagine a huge country, economy growing fast, but lots of people can't easily travel by air. That's where UDAN comes in. It's about closing that gap, connecting people and businesses in a new way.
So it's not just more flights, it's about boosting the economy in those areas that have been left out.
Exactly. Unlocking the potential of those regions. But for SpiceJet, it's a bit of a gamble.
How so?
Those regional markets, it's not like flying between big cities. You need different planes, smaller ones that can land on shorter runways, and fewer passengers.
And finding those planes might be tough. Plus, tickets are usually cheaper, which affects how much money they make.
Exactly. SpiceJet's got to be careful with costs, pick the right routes, make sure those regional flights actually make money.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah,
Making this new plan work with what they already have and the money they have.
you got it. But if they figure it out, this regional connectivity could be huge for them. More revenue, bigger market share.
So it's all about them trying to do different things, finding new markets. And speaking of that, they're also going international. Pretty bold for an airline still dealing with financial issues, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it's risky for sure, but potentially very rewarding. Expanding outside India, newer income, more people knowing their brand, and maybe most importantly, experience in the global airline world.
So it's not just adding a few international flights, it's about becoming a bigger player globally.
Precisely. But international expansion, it comes with its own set of, complications. Different regulations, competing with airlines that are already established internationally, managing things across time zones and different cultures.
Like they're entering a whole new world where the rules are different and the competition is even tougher.
And that's where their strategy is so important. They can't just pick any international destination. It's got to be routes that are in demand and that can actually make money.
Like chess, but on a global scale, you have to anticipate what others will do while the board keeps changing.
Exactly. They also have to stand out from the competition, offer good prices, make sure the travel experience is good, maybe even focus on a niche market where they can be unique.
So it's about being smart, strategic, and flexible. Speaking of flexible, remember that MRO thing we talked about earlier? Building their own maintenance and repair operations? That could be a game changer for their costs, even create new income.
Yeah, it's a fascinating move. Instead of paying others to do it, which is expensive and takes time, they're doing it themselves.
Like having your own mechanic who knows your car inside and out. They can catch problems early, fix them fast, keep everything running smooth.
And if they get good enough, maybe they can even offer that service to other airlines. Turn a cost into a profit. Really shows they're thinking long term.
So we've covered a lot. SpiceJet's financial balancing act, their bet on regional connectivity, their international dreams, even their move into MRO. Quite the story.
And like any good story, there are twists and turns, difficulties and chances. But there's one more piece before we can truly understand their future.
All right, don't leave us in suspense. What's the missing piece?
We talked a lot about the outside stuff, economy, government, competition, but what about the inside? The people making the big decisions.
The human element. Pilots, engineers, executives, they all play a part in where SpiceJet ends up.
Exactly. And that's where we're going next. Let's look at the leadership, their vision for the company, and the kind of culture they're building. Because their ability to make those plans work, handle the challenges, and get SpiceJet to a stable future, it all depends on those people at the top.
We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into SpiceJet. And you know what they say? It all comes down to the people.
Absolutely. You can have the best plan in the world, but if you don't have the right people to make it happen, it's meaningless.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So let's focus on the folks running the show, SpiceJet's leadership team. What can we learn from our sources about their vision for the company and the kind of culture they're building?
Well, one thing that jumps out is their emphasis on being adaptable. They've shown they're willing to change quickly when the market changes, like launching new routes, expanding their cargo operations, or even getting into the MRO space.
Yeah, they're not afraid to shake things up and try new things, which is so important in this industry.
And they've put together a team with a lot of different skills and experiences, people from finance operations, marketing technology. It's a good mix for tackling all the challenges the airline industry faces.
It's like they've assembled an Avengers team for the airline world, each member bringing their own superpower.
Haha, I like that. And their leadership style seems to be about empowering people. They're giving their team the freedom to make decisions and take responsibility, which helps create a culture of innovation and accountability.
So it's not just about taking orders from the top. It's about everyone feeling like they can contribute ideas and take initiative.
Right. And that kind of culture can be a real advantage, especially in an industry where being quick and responsive is so important.
But it's not all about what's happening inside the company. Let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture. What are some of those external forces that could shape SpiceJet's future?
Well, the Indian economy is a big one if it keeps growing. That means more people have money to spend, more people are traveling, more demand for air travel.
A rising tide lifts all boats, they say. But what happens if the economy slows down or if there's a global recession?
That would definitely be a problem for SpiceJet, and the whole airline industry travel demand would likely drop, putting pressure on ticket prices and profits.
So yeah, economic stability is really important. And then there's the always unpredictable fuel prices,
Oh, yeah. Jet fuel is a huge expense for airlines, and even small changes in price can really affect their bottom line.
which makes those fuel hedging strategies we talked about earlier even more important.
Absolutely. They need to protect themselves from those sudden price increases as much as they can.
And what about competition? The Indian aviation market is getting pretty crowded these days.
It's really competitive with several big players all fighting for market share, and there are always new airlines popping up, adding to the pressure.
So SpiceJet will need to find ways to stand out, maybe through their focus on regional connectivity or their growing cargo operations.
Yeah, finding a niche, offering something unique, and providing excellent customer service, those will be key to succeeding in such a crowded market.
And we can't forget those regulatory and political factors we mentioned before.
Right, government policies, taxes, fees, safety regulations, infrastructure development, those can all have a big impact on the airline industry.
SpiceJet will need to be smart about navigating those political waters, build strong relationships with the people making decisions, and be ready to adapt to any changes in the rules.
It's a lot to manage, but they've shown they can handle it. They've faced tough challenges before and come out stronger each time.
It's their resilience that's so impressive. They've been through a lot, and they're still here, still innovating, still pushing the limits.
That's what makes their story so interesting. They're not just an airline. They represent the energy and ambition of the Indian economy.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway you want listeners to think about? What do you hope they'll remember about SpiceJet?
I think the most important lesson is that success isn't usually a straight line. It's about navigating uncertainty, embracing change, and being brave enough to try new things.
It's about being adaptable, resilient, and having a clear vision for the future.
Exactly. And SpiceJet's journey so far proves that even in a tough industry like aviation, you can overcome obstacles and achieve amazing things.
And who knows what the future holds, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be an exciting ride.
I totally agree. SpiceJet's story reminds us that in business and in life, the only thing that's constant is change. And the people who embrace that change, who are willing to adapt and evolve, they're the ones who reach new heights.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed exploring the world of SpiceJet with us, and we encourage you to keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the stories behind the businesses that shape our world.
Until next time.